My sister reported me to CPS for discipline they taught me. The knock on my door at 7:23 a.m. wasn't gentle. 3 sharp raps that made my coffee mug rattle against the kitchen counter and sent my 8-year-old daughter Emma scrambling to peek through the living room blinds. "Mama, there's a lady with a clipboard," she whispered, her voice carrying that particular note of childhood anxiety that makes every parent's stomach drop. I already knew. Somehow, I already fucking knew. The woman standing on my front porch wore the kind of practice-neutral expression that screamed government employee. Mid-40s, sensible shoes, a manila folder tucked under her arm like a weapon. Behind her stood a man in khakis who kept glancing at his phone. "Are you Sarah Chen?" she asked when I opened the door, though her tone suggested she already had my driver's license photo memorized. "Yes. I'm Janet Morrison with Child Protective Services. This is my colleague, David Park. We need to speak with you regarding a report that's been filed concerning your daughter's welfare." The world tilted. Just slightly, like when you miss a step going downstairs, but instead of catching yourself, you just keep falling. "I'm sorry, what?" The words came out strangled. Emma was still hovering behind me, and I could feel her little body tense at the shift in my voice. "May we come inside? We have some questions about your parenting practices, specifically regarding disciplinary measures and your daughter's living conditions." My mind raced through every moment of the past few weeks. Had someone seen me raise my voice at the grocery store when Emma threw a tantrum over cereal? Was it last Tuesday when I'd given her a timeout for hitting the neighbor's kid? The time I'd taken away her iPad for not doing homework? "Emma, sweetie, go get dressed for school," I managed, my voice artificially bright. She hesitated, those dark eyes so much like her father's studying the strangers with unusual intensity. "But Mom. Now, baby. Please." She retreated to her bedroom, and I gestured for them to sit on my couch. The same couch where Emma and I had our nightly reading time. Where she'd fallen asleep watching Disney movies just last weekend. Where I'd comforted her through nightmares after her dad died 2 years ago. Janet Morrison flipped open her folder with practiced efficiency. "We received a report alleging emotional abuse and inappropriate punishment methods. The caller indicated that you've been using isolation tactics, verbal intimidation, and creating an unstable environment for your child. That's..." I stopped, swallowed hard. "That's completely untrue. Who made this report?" "I can't disclose that information at this time." But something flickered in her eyes. A tiny tell that made my blood run cold. "It was anonymous," David added, consulting his notes. "Though the caller seemed to have detailed knowledge of your household routines and disciplinary practices." Detailed knowledge. My throat constricted as puzzle pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The argument 3 weeks ago. The things I'd said about Dad's will. The way Rachel's face had twisted when she realized the house, this house, was mine now. My sister's voice echoed in my memory, sharp and venomous. "You always were his favorite." "Well, we'll see how that works out for you." I thought she meant the inheritance. I never imagined she'd go after Emma. The questions came in waves, each one feeling like a scalpel cutting deeper into my life. Janet Morrison's pen scratched against her notepad as she documented every word, every hesitation, every crack in my voice. "Tell us about your typical disciplinary methods," she said, her tone clinical. "Timeouts. Usually in Emma's room or the corner by the stairs. Taking away privileges like screen time or playdates when she misbehaves." My hands twisted in my lap. "The same things my parents did with me and my sister growing up." David leaned forward. "The report mentioned you forced your daughter into extended isolation. Sometimes for hours at a time." "Hours?" The word shot out louder than I intended. "No, absolutely not. 10 minutes maximum, usually less. She's 8 years old. I follow the 1 minute per year rule my pediatrician recommended. But I could see how it might sound different through Rachel's twisted lens. Last month, when she'd stopped by unannounced, Emma had been in timeout for exactly 8 minutes after throwing toys at our neighbor's toddler. Rachel had found me loading the dishwasher, trying to let Emma calm down before we talked. "Why is she locked in there crying?" Rachel had demanded, her voice dripping with fake concern. "She's not locked in. She's thinking about her choices," I'd replied, not looking up from the plates. "Remember when Mom used to make us sit in the hallway chair?" Rachel's laugh had been brittle. "Oh, I remember a lot of things about how differently we were treated." Now, sitting across from these strangers dissecting my parenting, I realized she'd been building her case even then. "We'd like to speak with Emma privately," Janet said, glancing toward the hallway where I could hear my daughter moving around her room. "It's standard procedure. She doesn't know anything's wrong." Panic clawed at my chest. "She's been through enough trauma losing her father. I don't want her scared." "We're trained to speak with children in age-appropriate ways," David interrupted. "The sooner we can complete our assessment, the sooner we can close the case." Close the case. As if my family was just another file to be processed and stamped. Emma appeared in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder, lunchbox in hand. She'd chosen her favorite purple dress, the one that made her feel grown up, and had attempted to French braid her own hair. My heart clenched at how small she looked taking in the scene. "Mama? Am I still going to school?" "We'd actually like to chat with you for a few minutes first," Janet said, her voice shifting to that syrupy tone adults use when they're trying too hard. "Just some questions about how things are at home." Emma's grip tightened on her lunchbox. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong." I wanted to pull her into my arms, to shield her from this nightmare, but I could feel Janet's eyes cataloging every interaction. As they led Emma to the kitchen table, I caught a glimpse of Janet's notes. The handwriting was small, but I could make out fragments: single mother, recent inheritance dispute, and estranged sister Rachel Chen, age 32. My blood turned to ice water. They knew about Rachel. Which meant this wasn't just an anonymous tip, it was a calculated attack, complete with family background and personal details that could only come from someone who'd been planning this for weeks. I thought about the certified letter from Dad's attorney that had arrived the day before Rachel's visit. The one that finalized the transfer of the house into my name, along with the $127,000 life insurance policy Dad had quietly changed 6 months before his death. Rachel had always been ruthless when she wanted something. I just never thought she'd use my daughter as ammunition. The interview lasted 27 minutes. I know because I watched the kitchen clock tick past each second while listening to muffled voices through the doorway. Emma's higher pitch mixing with Janet's measured questions and David's occasional follow-ups. When they finally emerged, Emma's face was flushed and confused. She ran straight to me, burying her head against my shoulder. They asked weird stuff, Mama, she whispered. Like if you ever lock me up or make me scared on purpose. My arms tightened around her automatically. Over her head, I watched Janet scribble more notes. Whatever Emma had told them wasn't matching their anonymous report. I could see it in the slight furrow between Janet's eyebrows. Emma handled the questions very well, David said diplomatically. She seems like a bright, well-adjusted child. Because she is, I snapped, then immediately regretted my tone. Getting defensive wouldn't help anyone. Janet closed her folder but didn't tuck it away. We'll need to conduct a home inspection. Today, if possible. We also need contact information for Emma's school, her pediatrician, and any other caregivers or family members who interact with her regularly. Other family members. The words tasted bitter. My sister Rachel is the only family we have locally. Our parents are both deceased. Something passed between Janet and David, a look that confirmed my worst suspicions. We may need to speak with her as well, Janet said carefully. As part of our standard investigation process. I almost laughed. The irony was suffocating. Of course you will. After they left, promising to return tomorrow for the home inspection, I called in sick to work and drove Emma to school personally instead of letting her take the bus. I needed those extra 15 minutes in the car to study her face, to reassure myself that she was okay. Mrs. Peterson asked if everything was all right at home, Emma said as we pulled into the school parking lot. I told her yes, but those people made it sound like maybe it wasn't. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. Everything is fine, sweetheart. Sometimes adults have to check on families to make sure everyone's safe and happy. It's their job. Like police officers. Sort of. I turned to face her fully. Emma, you know you can tell me anything, right? If someone ever made you feel uncomfortable or asked you to keep secrets from me. Her dark eyes were so earnest. I know, Mama. You tell me that all the time. After dropping her off, I sat in my car outside Franklin Elementary for 10 more minutes, hands shaking as I finally pulled out my phone. Rachel's number was still in my contacts, though we hadn't spoken since that awful day 3 weeks ago. She answered on the second ring, her voice artificially bright. Sarah. This is unexpected. You called CPS on me. I didn't bother with pleasantries. A pause. Then, I'm sorry, what? Don't. My voice was low, dangerous. Don't fucking lie to me, Rachel. They just left my house. They know about the inheritance, they know about our fight. Anonymous caller with detailed knowledge of my household routines. Come on. Another pause, longer this time. When she spoke again, the fake sweetness was gone. I saw how you were treating that little girl. Someone needed to speak up. You saw an 8-minute timeout. The same discipline Mom used on us 100 times. I saw a lot more than that. Her voice was getting colder. I saw Emma flinch when you raised your voice. I saw how thin she's gotten. I saw you prioritizing dishes over your crying child. That's not, I stopped, forcing myself to breathe. Getting into a screaming match wouldn't help anything. Rachel, this is my daughter. Your niece. How could you do this? Because someone has to look out for her now that you've got Dad's blood money to distract you. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, processing what had just happened. Rachel hadn't just admitted to making the report, she'd doubled down. Which meant this wasn't going away quietly. I needed help. Legal help. And I needed to start documenting everything, starting with this conversation. My sister wanted a war. Fine. But she'd picked the wrong target, and she was about to learn exactly what I was willing to do to protect my child. I spent the next hour in my car outside Emma's school, frantically Googling false CPS reports and malicious child abuse allegations on my phone. The results made my stomach churn. Forums full of parents who'd been through similar nightmares, some lasting months or even years. Legal advice websites warning about the burden of proof, the presumption that someone wouldn't lie about child abuse, the way these cases could spiral even when unfounded. My hands were still shaking when I called Mitchell and Associates, the family law firm that had handled Dad's estate. The receptionist put me through to Jennifer Mitchell herself after I explained the situation. Sarah, I'm so sorry this is happening, Jennifer said, her voice carrying genuine concern. Unfortunately, false CPS reports in custody disputes and family conflicts are more common than people realize. The good news is that truth has a way of surfacing, especially when the allegations are this obviously fabricated. How obviously? I asked, desperate for reassurance. You're dealing with someone who reported timeouts as isolation torture and normal parenting as abuse. CPS investigators see real abuse cases regularly, they know the difference. But you need to be prepared for this to get worse before it gets better. Worse how? Rachel escalated to CPS, which means she's committed now. People who make false reports often panic when the investigation doesn't go their way and double down with more extreme allegations. Document everything, Sarah. Every interaction, every phone call, every text message. I thought about Rachel's cold voice on the phone, the calculated way she twisted Emma's normal 8-year-old reaction into something sinister. She's going to lie to them, isn't she? When they interview her. Probably. But here's the thing, liars usually overreach. They add details that don't match reality, create timelines that don't work, claim knowledge they couldn't possibly have. We just need to be ready to catch those inconsistencies. After hanging up, I drove home to prepare for tomorrow's inspection. The house was already clean, I'm borderline obsessive about it since becoming a single parent, but I found myself scrubbing baseboards and organizing Emma's toy bins with manic precision. At 2:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Janet Morrison, CPS. We need to reschedule tomorrow's inspection to Thursday at 10 a.m. Also, we've received additional information that requires follow-up. Please call my office at your earliest convenience. Additional information. My blood turned cold. I called immediately, but Janet was in meetings. Her assistant, a woman named Carol who sounded tired, was more forthcoming than she probably should have been. There was another call this morning, Carol said quietly. Same case, different allegations. Something about financial neglect and inappropriate male visitors to the home. Financial neglect. Male visitors. My voice pitched higher. I don't even date. The only men who come to my house are my neighbor Frank when he brings in my packages, and the maintenance guy for my HVAC system. I can't discuss details over the phone, but Janet will want to address these new concerns during the inspection. After I hung up, I sat on my kitchen floor and screamed into a dish towel. The sound was muffled and desperate, like a wounded animal. Then I pulled myself together and called Jennifer Mitchell back. She's escalating, I told her. Just like you said. What did she add? Financial neglect, which makes no sense since I work full-time and Dad's life insurance means Emma's college fund is actually better funded than most kids. And something about inappropriate male visitors. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. Sarah, I need you to think carefully. Has Rachel ever been to your house when any repairmen or neighbors were present? Frank from next door was there last month when she visited. He'd brought in a package while I was at work, and Emma let him in to put it on the counter. He was just leaving when Rachel arrived. What did she see? The memory crystallized with horrible clarity. Frank was saying goodbye to Emma at the front door. She hugged him, she hugs everyone, and Rachel asked who he was. I explained he's our neighbor, that he helps out sometimes since Mike died. And how did she react? She got this weird look on her face. Asked if I thought it was appropriate to have strange men alone with Emma. I told her Frank isn't strange, he's 73 years old and his wife brings us casseroles. But Rachel just kept staring. She's building a narrative, Jennifer said grimly. Financial neglect probably stems from Emma wearing hand-me-downs or you shopping at discount stores, normal single-parent behavior that Rachel's twisting into poverty and neglect. I thought about Emma's clothes, most of them from Target or the consignment shop downtown. About how proud I'd been to stretch our budget, to make sure Emma never felt like we were struggling even when things were tight before Dad's insurance came through. What do I do? Fight back. It's time to stop playing defense. That evening, I made the hardest phone call of my life. Mom. Emma's voice was small as she found me sitting on the back porch at 8:17 p.m., phone pressed to my ear. Who are you talking to? I'd been on hold with the non-emergency police line for 12 minutes, trying to figure out if there was any way to file a report about Rachel's false allegations before she could spin more lies. The officer who finally answered, Sergeant Martinez, had been sympathetic but realistic. Ma'am, CPS investigations are civil matters until proven malicious. You'd need concrete evidence of deliberate falsification, not just suspicion. But she admitted it, I'd insisted. She called me back and basically confessed. Did you record the conversation? Of course I hadn't. Why would I think to record my own sister destroying my life? Now Emma was standing in the doorway in her purple pajamas, clutching her stuffed elephant, and I realized I'd been so consumed with fighting Rachel that I'd barely talked to my daughter about what was happening to our family. Come here, baby. I patted the porch step beside me. I was just talking to some people about grown-up stuff. Nothing for you to worry about. She settled next to me, her small body warm against my side. Is Aunt Rachel in trouble? The question hit me like a slap. Why would you ask that? The lady today, Janet, she asked if Aunt Rachel ever comes over. And if she's ever mean to me or says bad things about you. Emma's voice got quieter. I told her about the day Aunt Rachel called you selfish. When she was here last month. My heart hammered against my ribs. What exactly did you tell her? That Aunt Rachel was yelling about Grandpa's house. That she said you took everything that should have been hers too. And that she made you cry after I went to bed, because I heard you in your room later. Jesus Christ. Emma had heard more than I'd realized. And she told CPS investigators that Rachel had motive to hurt our family. Did Janet ask you anything else about Aunt Rachel? Emma nodded solemnly. She wanted to know if Aunt Rachel ever asked me questions about you. About whether you get angry or punish me too much. She looked up at me with those serious dark eyes. I told her Aunt Rachel asked weird stuff like that, but I didn't understand why. My phone buzzed with a text. Rachel's name made my stomach clench. Asterisk, we need to talk. Meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow at 7 p.m. Come alone, asterisk. I stared at the message, my mind racing. A public place, after dark, away from any witnesses. Everything about it screamed trap. But maybe that worked both ways. Emma, sweetie, do you remember how Daddy always said the most important thing was telling the truth, even when it's hard? Yes. I need you to keep telling the truth about our family, okay? Even if people ask confusing questions or try to make it sound like normal things are bad. She leaned against me harder. Are we in trouble, Mama? No, baby. But someone is trying to make it look like we are, and we have to be really brave until the grown-ups figure out the truth. After putting Emma to bed, I spent 2 hours researching recording apps on my phone. Washington was a two-party consent state, which meant I couldn't legally record Rachel without her permission. But if she threatened Emma or admitted to lying. My laptop was still open to a forum thread titled Documenting False CPS Reports when my doorbell rang at 10:43 p.m. Through the peephole, I could see Janet Morrison and David Park on my front porch again, this time accompanied by a uniformed police officer. My blood turned to ice. Ms. Chen, we need to speak with you immediately, Janet called through the door. We've received some very serious allegations that require immediate investigation. I opened the door with shaking hands. Emma's asleep. Whatever this is about. We have a report that you've been coaching your daughter to lie to investigators, David interrupted, his earlier diplomatic tone gone. And that you've made threats against the person who filed the original complaint. Rachel. She'd beaten me to the punch, twisting Emma's honest answers into evidence of manipulation, turning my angry phone call into threats of retaliation. The police officer stepped forward. Ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us for questioning. Is there someone who can stay with your daughter? As they read me my rights on my own front porch, I could see Emma's bedroom light flip on upstairs. My 8-year-old daughter, who'd already lost her father, was about to watch her mother get arrested. And Rachel was probably sitting in her apartment right now, planning her next move. The police station's fluorescent lights made everything look sickly and surreal at 11:47 p.m. I'd been sitting in interview room B for 36 minutes, watching Detective Lisa Hawthorne flip through a file that seemed to grow thicker every time she turned a page. Let's start with the phone call you made to Rachel Chin this morning at 9:23 a.m., she said, consulting her notes. Can you tell me what you discussed? My throat felt like sandpaper. I confronted her about calling CPS. She admitted it. According to Ms. Chin, you made several threatening statements during that conversation. Detective Hawthorne's pen hovered over her notepad. She claims you said, and I quote, you picked the wrong target and, you're about to learn what I'm willing to do. The words hung in the air like poison. Taken out of context, divorced from my desperation and fear, they sounded sinister as hell. I was talking about protecting my daughter legally. Not, whatever she's trying to make it sound like. She also alleges that you've been coaching Emma to provide false information to CPS investigators. Specifically teaching her to claim that Ms. Chen had ulterior motives for filing the report. Emma told the truth. My voice cracked. She heard Rachel screaming at me about the inheritance. She saw her aunt make her mother cry. Those aren't lies, they're facts a child shouldn't have had to witness. Detective Hawthorne made another note. Ms. Chen provided us with text messages showing you've been researching how to discredit CPS investigations. Screenshots from your phone, dating back to this afternoon. My stomach dropped through the floor. How could she possibly have screenshots of my... I stopped, the realization hitting me like a freight train. She hacked my phone. That's a serious accusation, Ms. Chen. Sarah. My name is Sarah. I leaned forward, desperation making my voice shake. Rachel is tech-savvy, she works in IT for Microsoft. When she was at my house last month, she asked to borrow my phone charger. She had my phone for maybe 10 minutes while I was getting Emma ready for bed. The detective's expression didn't change, but she wrote something down. Even if that were true, the screenshots show you researching how to prove false CPS reports and malicious child abuse allegations. That supports Ms. Chen's claim that you're more concerned with discrediting the investigation than addressing the underlying concerns about Emma's welfare. I wanted to laugh at the insanity of it all. Of course I'm researching false reports, because that's what this is. My sister is lying because she's furious about our father's will. She's using my daughter as a weapon in a financial dispute. About that inheritance, Detective Hawthorne flipped to another page. Ms. Chen says your father's estate was valued at approximately $340,000, including the house and life insurance. She claims you manipulated him while he was sick to change his will in your favor. That's bullshit. The word came out harsher than I intended. Dad changed his will because I was the one taking care of him. I was the one driving him to chemo appointments and staying overnight when he couldn't manage alone. Rachel visited exactly twice during his entire illness, both times to ask about his finances. My phone, which they graciously allowed me to keep after determining I wasn't a flight risk, buzzed with a text notification. The detective glanced at it, then at me. Go ahead and check it. We're not hiding anything here. The message was from my neighbor Frank, Sarah, there's a woman taking pictures of your house. Says she's with child services but it's nearly midnight. Emma's bedroom light is still on. Should I call regular police? My blood froze. Someone's at my house. Taking pictures of Emma's bedroom. Detective Hawthorne frowned, reading over my shoulder. Who's staying with your daughter? Mrs. Patterson from down the street. She's 78 years old. I was already standing, panic clawing at my chest. If Rachel is at my house right now, if she's trying to get to Emma while I'm stuck here. Sit down, Ms. Chen. The detective's voice was firm but not unkind. I'll radio for a unit to do a welfare check. You don't understand, I said, but I sat anyway because my legs were shaking. Rachel texted me earlier wanting to meet tomorrow night. This is coordinated. She gets me arrested, then shows up at my house when Emma's with a babysitter. Another text from Frank, woman claims she's doing emergency inspection. Tried to get Mrs. Patterson to let her inside. I told her to leave or I'm calling 911 *. Detective Hawthorne was already reaching for her radio. Unit 47, we need a welfare check at 1847, Maple Street. Possible unauthorized person attempting entry. Child on premises with elderly babysitter. The radio crackled back, Unit 47 responding. ETA 4 minutes. Those 4 minutes stretched like hours. I sat there imagining every horrible scenario, Rachel talking her way inside, Emma scared and confused, Mrs. Patterson too trusting to recognize manipulation. My daughter had already lost her father, the idea of losing me too, of being taken into the system because of Rachel's lies. Miss Chin. Detective Hawthorne's voice pulled me back. Unit 47 reports the premises are secure. The individual in question left before they arrived, but your neighbor got a license plate number. It matches the vehicle registered to Rachel Chen. I closed my eyes, relief and rage warring in my chest. She's escalating. Just like my lawyer said she would. Your lawyer. Jennifer Mitchell. She's representing me in this matter. I met the detective's gaze directly. She warned me that people who make false reports often panic when their lies don't work and try more extreme tactics. Detective Hawthorne set down her pen. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw doubt flicker across her face. Ms. Chen, Sarah, I'm going to be straight with you. The allegations against you don't match what we typically see in legitimate abuse cases. But the pattern of escalating reports, the timing with your family dispute, and now this midnight visit to your home. She paused. It's starting to look like harassment. It is harassment. It's my sister trying to destroy my family because she didn't get what she wanted from our father's estate. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Mrs. Patterson, Emma's fine, sweetie. That woman was very pushy but Frank scared her off. Don't you worry about anything, asterisk. The detective read the message and made another note. We're going to release you tonight, but this investigation is far from over. I suggest you document everything, every contact, every message, every incident. And Sarah? Yes. That meeting your sister wants tomorrow. Don't go alone. The next morning brought a voicemail that made my blood freeze. Janet Morrison's voice, more formal than before, delivered the news that would haunt me for weeks. Ms. Chen, this is Janet from CPS. We've scheduled an emergency custody evaluation for Friday at 2 p.m. Given the escalating nature of the allegations and last night's incident, we need to reassess Emma's safety placement. Please bring Emma to our offices on 5th Street. An attorney may accompany you. I played the message 3 times, each word hitting like a physical blow. Emergency custody evaluation. Safety placement. They were talking about taking Emma away from me. My hands shook as I called Jennifer Mitchell at 6:47 a.m., not caring that I was probably waking her up. Sarah. What's happened now? They want to remove Emma on Friday. Emergency evaluation. The words came out in a rush. Rachel was at my house last night taking pictures while I was being questioned by police. She's making it look like Emma's in immediate danger. Jennifer was quiet for a moment, and I could hear papers shuffling. Okay, this is serious, but it's not hopeless. Emergency removals require substantial evidence of imminent harm. Timeouts in a family dispute don't meet that threshold, no matter how Rachel tries to spin it. But what if she's not done lying? What if she makes up something worse? Then we catch her in those lies. Sarah, I need you to do something that might feel wrong, but it could save your case. What? Meet with Rachel tonight. That text she sent about Riverside Park. Go. But you won't be alone, I'm hiring a private investigator named Marcus Webb. He'll be positioned where he can film the entire conversation from a distance. Washington's recording laws don't apply to video surveillance in public spaces. My stomach churned at the thought of facing Rachel, especially after last night. What if she tries something? What if this is a setup? Then we'll have it on video. Marcus is former police, he knows how to handle situations that go sideways. And Sarah? Rachel wants this meeting because she's panicking. People who are winning don't demand secret midnight conversations in parks. After dropping Emma at school, with an extra long hug that made her study my face with concern, I drove to Jennifer's office to meet Marcus Webb. He was exactly what you'd expect from an ex-cop turned PI, mid-50s, graying beard, the kind of calm presence that suggested he'd seen everything twice. Your sister's made some tactical errors, he said, spreading photos across Jennifer's conference table. These pictures she took of your house last night. She was trespassing on your neighbor's property to get the angle she wanted. Frank Morrison, good man, by the way, gave me his security footage. The photos made my throat tight. Rachel crouched behind Frank's hedge, telephoto lens aimed at Emma's bedroom window. The timestamp showed 11:52 p.m., nearly midnight, long after any legitimate CPS worker would be conducting business. There's more, Marcus continued. I ran a background check on your sister's recent activities. She's been researching CPS procedures for 3 weeks, ever since your father's estate was finalized. Downloaded forms, read case studies, even joined online forums about child welfare investigations. Jennifer leaned forward. Premeditation. She didn't call CPS because she witnessed abuse, she planned this attack well in advance. But will that be enough to stop the custody evaluation? Marcus exchanged a look with Jennifer. Probably not immediately. But it gives us ammunition for a counterattack. If Rachel lies tonight, if she threatens you or admits to fabricating reports, we'll have everything we need to file criminal charges for filing false police reports and harassment. The rest of the day crawled by like torture. I tried to maintain normalcy for Emma's sake, helping with homework and making her favorite dinner, but she kept catching me staring into space or checking my phone compulsively. Mama, you're being weird, she announced over mac and cheese. Is it because of those people who came to our house? Partly, I admitted. Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, and it takes time to work them out. Is Aunt Rachel disagreeing with us? The question was so innocently perceptive that it nearly broke my heart. Yes, sweetheart. Aunt Rachel is very angry about some grown-up things, and she's trying to cause problems for our family. Emma nodded solemnly, twirling cheese around her fork. She was always mean, even before Grandpa died. Daddy said she was jealous of you. Daddy said that? When I was little. He said some people get angry when good things happen to other people, and that's why Aunt Rachel always looked mad when she visited. Emma's 8-year-old wisdom cut straight to the heart of everything. Is she trying to take me away from you? The directness of the question stole my breath. She's trying to make some people think I'm not a good mama. But I'm going to prove that's not true. You are a good mama, Emma said fiercely. The best mama. And if anyone tries to take me away, I'll tell them they're stupid. At 6:30 p.m., I kissed Emma goodbye and left her with Mrs. Patterson, whose presence felt like a shield against whatever Rachel had planned. The drive to Riverside Park took 12 minutes that felt like hours. Marcus was already in position, invisible among the joggers and dog walkers who frequented the park at dusk. Jennifer had coached me on what to say, how to get Rachel talking, how to let her dig her own grave with words. But nothing had prepared me for the sight of my sister sitting calmly on the bench we'd chosen as kids, looking for all the world like she was waiting for an old friend instead of the person whose life she was systematically destroying. Hello, Sarah, Rachel said as I approached. I wasn't sure you'd come. You're trying to take my daughter away. I sat down carefully, maintaining distance between us. Of course I came. Rachel's smile was cold and satisfied. I'm trying to save Emma from a mother who's too selfish to see what she's doing wrong. And just like that, with Marcus's camera rolling in the distance, my sister began confessing to crimes she didn't even realize she was committing. You want to know the truth, Sarah? Rachel's voice carried that same cold satisfaction as she settled back against the bench. Emma told me things during my visits. Things you probably don't even realize she notices. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I forced myself to stay calm. Marcus was filming from his position near the playground, and I needed Rachel to keep talking. What things? How you cry yourself to sleep most nights. How you forget to eat dinner sometimes because you're too stressed about money. How she heard you on the phone with the mortgage company last month, begging for an extension. Rachel's smile was razor sharp. That little girl is carrying the weight of your instability, and you're too wrapped up in playing victim to see it. The words hit like physical blows because they contained just enough truth to sting. I had cried myself to sleep plenty of nights after Mike died. I had skipped meals during the worst financial crunch before Dad's insurance came through. And yes, Emma had probably overheard more of my adult stress than I'd realized. That's called grief, Rachel. And single parenthood. Not abuse. Is it grief when you use Emma as your emotional support system? When you tell an 8-year-old about adult problems she can't possibly understand? Rachel leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. She told me you explain every bill, every financial decision, every worry about the future. You've turned that child into your tiny therapist. My throat constricted. Had I done that? In trying to be honest with Emma about our situation, had I burdened her with too much? I wanted her to understand why we couldn't afford certain things. You wanted to justify your failures by making her complicit in them. Rachel's interruption was swift and vicious. Just like Dad did with you. The comparison hit like a slap. Don't. Oh, but it's true, isn't it? Dad confided in you about everything, his medical bills, his fears about dying, his disappointment in me. He made you his little confidant while I was just the difficult daughter who lived too far away. Rachel's mask was slipping now, revealing decades of resentment. And now you're doing the exact same thing to Emma. That's not, I stopped myself, recognizing the trap. Rachel was trying to get me defensive, angry, to say something she could use against me later. The beautiful part, Rachel continued, apparently taking my silence as victory, is that you're going to lose her anyway. Friday's evaluation. I've been documenting everything for weeks. Pictures of Emma looking tired at school pickup. Videos of her in the same clothes 2 days in a row. Screenshots of your social media posts complaining about single parenthood. My blood turned to ice. You've been stalking us. I've been building a case. There's a difference. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through what looked like a photo album. Emma falling asleep in a grocery cart at 8 p.m. on a school night, that was March 15th. Her wearing that same purple dress 3 times in 1 week because you hadn't done laundry. The time she had a meltdown at Target because you couldn't afford the shoes she wanted. Each image felt like a knife twist. Normal moments of parenting struggle, twisted through Rachel's lens into evidence of neglect. You've been following us for weeks. Months, Rachel corrected casually. Ever since Dad changed his will. Did you really think I wouldn't notice when he started giving you money for Emma's activities while telling me he couldn't help with my student loans? He was helping his granddaughter. He was choosing you. Again. Just like when we were kids, just like when Mom died, just like every major decision our family ever made. Rachel's voice rose slightly, and I saw my opening. So this is about money. Not Emma's welfare. Her laugh was bitter and sharp. Oh, Sarah. You still don't get it. This was never about the money. This was never about the money, Rachel continued, her voice dropping to something almost confessional. It was about finally making you understand what it feels like to lose everything that matters. The words hung between us like a poison cloud. In the distance, I could see Marcus adjusting his position slightly, making sure he had a clear view of both our faces. When Mom died, Dad turned to you for comfort. When I graduated college, he missed the ceremony because you had some minor crisis with Mike. When I got engaged to David, Dad spent the entire rehearsal dinner talking about Emma's first steps. Rachel's hands clenched in her lap. 32 years of being the afterthought, Sarah. 32 years of watching you be the daughter he actually wanted. Something shifted in her expression then, a crack in the calculated composure she'd maintained throughout this nightmare. For just a moment, I saw the little girl who used to follow me around, desperate for approval I was too young to understand she needed. Rachel, I never knew you felt. Of course you didn't know. Her voice hardened again. Because everything always came so easily to you. The good grades, the perfect husband, the beautiful daughter, Dad's unconditional love. Even your grief is prettier than mine. She stood abruptly, pacing a few steps away from the bench before turning back. Do you want to know what I told CPS this afternoon? My stomach dropped through the floor. What? I called Janet Morrison at 3:17 p.m. Told her I was deeply concerned because Emma had started showing sexualized behavior during my visits. Rachel's smile was cold and deliberate. Inappropriate touching, asking strange questions about adult relationships. The kind of red flags that suggest exposure to sexual content or worse. The world tilted sideways. Rachel, that's a lie. That's a sick, horrible lie. Is it? Emma hugged your elderly neighbor. She sits on your lap during movie nights. She's curious about why her daddy isn't coming back. Rachel shrugged casually, as if she hadn't just described destroying a child's life. All normal behaviors that sound very different when reported by a concerned family member who's noticed troubling patterns. You can't, they'll investigate that claim. They'll interview Emma. My voice was shaking with rage and terror. You're going to traumatize an 8-year-old with sexual abuse accusations because you're jealous of a dead man's will. They'll interview Emma with specially trained counselors who know how to detect coaching and deception. Rachel sat back down, closer this time. The same counselors who'll note that she's been living with an unstable single mother who treats her more like a friend than a daughter. I wanted to hit her. The urge was so strong my hands actually twitched, and I had to dig my nails into my palms to stop myself from giving her exactly the kind of violent reaction she could use against me. You know what the best part is? Rachel's voice was almost conversational now. Even if they don't remove Emma immediately, you'll never feel safe again. Every hug will make you paranoid. Every bath time, every bedtime story, every normal moment of motherhood will be filtered through fear that someone's watching, waiting for you to step wrong. My phone buzzed with a text. Without thinking, I glanced down at it. Asterisk Mrs. Patterson, Emma's asking for you. Says she had a bad dream about people taking her away. Should I call you home? Asterisk. Rachel read the message over my shoulder and smiled with genuine pleasure. Even she knows what's coming. Children have instincts about these things. That's when I realized the full scope of what my sister had done. This wasn't just about revenge or money or childhood resentment. This was about Rachel methodically destroying every aspect of my relationship with my daughter, ensuring that even if I kept Emma, we'd both be forever damaged by fear and suspicion. "You're sick," I whispered. "No, Sarah. I'm finally free." The silence that followed Rachel's words felt like standing in the eye of a hurricane. Around us, normal life continued. Joggers passed by, a couple walked their golden retriever, children played on the swings 50 yards away. But sitting on that bench with my sister, I felt like I was watching the world through bulletproof glass. "The sexual abuse allegations," I said carefully, keeping my voice steady despite the terror clawing at my chest. "When exactly did you make that call?" Rachel checked her phone with theatrical casualness. 3:17 p.m., like I said. "Why?" "Because Emma was at school until 3:30, then at her friend Madison's house until 5:15. I have the pickup receipt from Little Scholars Academy and text confirmations from Madison's mom." I pulled out my own phone, scrolling to the timestamps. "So when exactly did these concerning behaviors occur?" "During the visit you claim happened today." For the first time since this nightmare began, I watched my sister's confidence falter. "Just a flicker, but enough. I've observed concerning patterns over multiple visits," she said, but her voice had lost some of its calculated precision. "Multiple visits. Let's see." I counted on my fingers, buying time while my mind raced. "You've been to my house exactly 3 times since Dad's funeral. March 8th for 23 minutes, Emma was doing homework the entire time. March 22nd when you arrived unannounced during Emma's timeout, stayed for maybe 15 minutes. And April 3rd when you came by to get Dad's photo albums and left when Emma asked why you were taking Grandpa's pictures." Rachel's jaw tightened. "You're being very specific for someone who supposedly wasn't monitoring my visits." "I'm being specific because I'm a single mother who keeps track of who's around my daughter. Something you'd understand if you'd ever actually cared about Emma's well-being instead of using her as a weapon." A jogger passed close to our bench, and Rachel lowered her voice instinctively. "This is pointless, Sarah. The report's already filed. CPS doesn't investigate claims, they investigate children's safety. And unsafe children get removed from unsafe homes. Except Emma isn't unsafe. And you know it." I leaned forward slightly, remembering Jennifer's coaching about getting Rachel to admit her true motivations. "This elaborate plan you've constructed, the photographs, the doctor timeline, the escalating allegations, that takes dedication. Planning. Real hatred." "Not hatred," Rachel said quietly. "Justice." "Justice for what?" "Dad loving his granddaughter. Dad appreciating the daughter who actually showed up during his cancer treatments. Justice for 32 years of being invisible in my own family." Her voice was getting sharper again, and I realized Marcus was probably capturing every micro-expression, every tell that revealed her real state of mind. "Do you know what it's like watching your parent die while your sister gets praised for basic human decency? Sarah's so devoted, Sarah's such a good daughter, Sarah sacrificed so much. Meanwhile, I was working 60-hour weeks to pay off the student loans Dad refused to help with because all his spare money went to Emma's college fund. You live in Seattle. It's a 12-hour drive. I offered to move back. After Dad's diagnosis, I applied for transfers, looked at apartments, researched oncologists in the area." Rachel's mask was slipping completely now. "You know what he said? Don't disrupt your life, honey. Sarah has everything handled." The pain in her voice was so raw it almost made me forget she was trying to destroy my family. "Almost. So you decided to disrupt mine instead." "I decided to show you what loss actually feels like." She stood again, checking her watch. "The beauty of CPS investigations is that they're designed to err on the side of caution. Even if you eventually prove I was lying, and that's a big if, Emma will spend weeks or months in foster care while they sort it out." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Mrs. Patterson, *, "Sweetie, Emma's getting really upset. She says her tummy hurts and she wants to know when you're coming home. This little one needs her mama, *. Rachel read it and smiled that same cold smile. "Tick-tock, Sarah. Your daughter's waiting." I looked at that text from Mrs. Patterson and felt something snap into place. Rachel wanted me panicked, rushing home to comfort Emma, abandoning this conversation just when she was finally revealing the full scope of her malice. But Emma's distress wasn't accidental, it was part of the plan. "You called my house, didn't you?" I said quietly. "Before texting me to meet here. You called and said something to Emma that would upset her." Rachel's smile widened. "I called at 6:45 p.m. to speak with you about tomorrow's custody evaluation. Mrs. Patterson very helpfully explained that you'd gone to meet with some people about Emma's situation. When Emma got on the phone, I simply told her that some nice people wanted to make sure she was safe and happy, and that she might need to stay with different families for a while until everything got sorted out. The calculated cruelty of it stole my breath. You told an 8-year-old she was going into foster care. I told her the truth about what happens when CPS determines a home is unsafe. Children are removed for their own protection." Rachel checked her phone again. "It's 7:23 p.m. now. Emma's been crying for 38 minutes, wondering why her mama isn't coming home to make the bad thoughts go away. Every maternal instinct screamed at me to run, to get to Emma, to fix whatever damage Rachel had inflicted on my terrified child. But Jennifer's voice echoed in my memory, people who are winning don't demand secret midnight conversations in parks. The timing's interesting, I said, forcing myself to stay seated. You call Emma at 6:45, upset her deliberately, then keep me here talking about how she's going to be taken away. Almost like you want her emotional distress documented at a specific time." Rachel's expression flickered. "I don't know what you're implying." "I'm implying you've got someone else involved in this. Someone who's going to show up at my house right about now, while Emma's conveniently upset and I'm conveniently not there to provide context." My phone was already buzzing with an incoming call. Frank's name on the caller ID made my heart race. "Don't answer it," Rachel said sharply. I answered it anyway, putting it on speaker so Marcus's recording equipment could capture everything. Sarah, there's another woman here claiming to be from CPS. Frank's voice was tight with concern. Says she's doing an emergency wellness check because they received reports of a distressed child. But she doesn't have proper identification, and she's asking Mrs. Patterson some very strange questions about your parenting habits. Rachel had gone completely still beside me, but I caught the slight satisfied curve of her mouth. What kind of questions? I asked. Whether Emma seems afraid of you. Whether you've been coaching her about what to say to authorities. Whether there are men coming and going from your house at unusual hours. Frank's voice dropped. Sarah, this woman knew things about your family situation that she shouldn't know. She mentioned your sister by name, said Rachel had provided additional concerning information about Emma's welfare. Frank, please don't let this person interview Emma without me present. I'm on my way home right now. Already handled. I told her she could speak to Emma with you and a lawyer present tomorrow during normal business hours, not at 7:30 p.m. when she's upset about her mama being gone. There was steel in the old man's voice. She left, but she took more pictures of your house first. Got shots of Emma crying in the living room window. The line went dead, and I turned to face my sister with a clarity that felt like ice water in my veins. Who is she, Rachel? The fake CPS worker you sent to photograph my crying daughter? Rachel stood smoothly, brushing off her jeans. I have no idea what you're talking about. But I do know that Emma's emotional state tonight will be very interesting to discuss during tomorrow's custody evaluation. She walked away without another word, leaving me alone on the bench with the weight of her orchestrated cruelty and the sound of my phone buzzing with another text from Mrs. Patterson. Emma's asking if the bad people are going to take her tonight. What do I tell her? The drive home from Riverside Park took 8 minutes that felt like 8 hours. My hands shook on the steering wheel as I processed everything Rachel had just confessed to, the fake CPS worker, the coordinated timing, the deliberate psychological torture of an 8-year-old child who'd already lost her father. When I pulled into my driveway at 7:47 p.m., Frank was waiting on his front porch with his arms crossed in a kind of expression that suggested someone was about to get a piece of his mind. That woman was no more CPS than I'm the Pope, he said without preamble. Adrienne Patterson's been watching kids for 40 years, she knows the difference between legitimate welfare checks and fishing expeditions. Inside, I found Emma curled up on Mrs. Patterson's lap, her face blotchy and tear-streaked. The sight of my daughter's distress hit me like a physical blow, but underneath the maternal panic was a cold, calculating rage at Rachel's manipulation. Mama. Emma launched herself at me, wrapping her arms around my waist with desperate intensity. Mrs. Patterson said you went to talk to people about keeping me safe, but Aunt Rachel called and said. I know what Aunt Rachel said, baby. She was lying. I knelt down to meet Emma's eyes, keeping my voice steady despite the fury coursing through my veins. Nobody is taking you anywhere. Some confused grown-ups asked the wrong questions, but we're going to fix that. Mrs. Patterson gathered her purse with the efficiency of someone who'd raised 6 children and buried 2 husbands. That woman who came by had Emma's school schedule memorized, Sarah. Knew about her piano lessons on Wednesdays, knew she takes the bus home on Tuesdays. That's not information you get from a legitimate CPS file. After Mrs. Patterson left, I spent 20 minutes documenting everything, timestamps, Frank's observations, Emma's exact words about Rachel's phone call. Then I called Jennifer Mitchell at 8:23 p.m. Sarah, please tell me you got Rachel on video confessing to something useful. I got her confessing to everything. Premeditation, the fake sexual abuse allegations, coordinating with someone to impersonate CPS tonight. My voice was steady now, fueled by the kind of maternal protectiveness that could move mountains. But Jennifer, she's not done. This fake CPS visit tonight was about getting photographs of Emma in distress. Rachel's building some kind of portfolio to present at tomorrow's custody evaluation. Then we present our own portfolio first. Jennifer's voice carried grim satisfaction. Marcus sent me the preliminary video 20 minutes ago. Rachel doesn't just look guilty, she looks unhinged. No family court judge is going to award custody to someone who admits to psychologically torturing a child for revenge. But what about Friday? The emergency evaluation. We're going to request an immediate hearing to dismiss all charges based on prosecutorial misconduct and false reporting. I've already drafted the motion, we'll file first thing tomorrow morning with the video evidence attached. After hanging up, I found Emma in her bedroom, sitting cross-legged on her bed with her stuffed elephant and a notebook. She was writing something with intense concentration, her tongue poking out slightly the way it did when she was working hard. What are you writing, sweetheart? She looked up with those serious dark eyes that reminded me so much of Mike. A list of all the true things about our family. Mrs. Patterson said sometimes grown-ups forget what's real when they're upset, so I'm making a reminder list. My throat tightened as I read over her shoulder, Mama makes good pancakes. Mama reads to me every night. Mama cried when Daddy died but she still took care of me. Mr. Frank likes us and brings packages. Mama works hard at her job. I am not scared of Mama ever. Aunt Rachel makes Mama sad, This is perfect, Emma. The most important thing is telling the truth, and you're very good at that. She nodded solemnly, then added one more line, Aunt Rachel tells lies about us and it makes my tummy hurt. At 9:15 p.m., my phone rang. Rachel's name on the caller ID made my stomach clench, but I answered anyway, putting it on speaker so I could record the conversation. I hope you're proud of yourself, Rachel's voice was tight with fury. Hiding in bushes with cameras like some kind of stalker. I'm proud of protecting my daughter from someone who admitted to filing false abuse reports for revenge. That video won't hold up in court. You entrapped me into saying things out of context. I almost laughed. Rachel, you confessed to calling an 8-year-old and telling her she was going into foster care. You admitted to fabricating sexual abuse allegations. There's no context that makes that acceptable. The line was quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. When she spoke again, her voice carried a different quality, something desperate and cornered. You think you've won, but you have no idea what you've started. I've spent 3 months building this case, Sarah. 3 months of documentation, witness statements, expert consultations. Your little recording session tonight just proves you're unstable and vindictive. The call ended, and I stared at my phone with growing unease. Rachel sounded cornered, but not defeated. Which meant tomorrow's custody evaluation might be even worse than I'd imagined. The morning of the custody evaluation arrived with a phone call at 5:47 a.m. that shattered what little sleep I'd managed to get. Jennifer's voice was tense, all business. Sarah, we have a problem. Rachel filed an emergency countermotion at midnight, claiming you've been harassing and threatening her. She's got what looks like a restraining order request, and she submitted additional evidence to CPS. I sat up in bed, my heart hammering. What kind of evidence? Medical records. She's claiming Emma has been to the pediatrician 7 times in the past 6 months for injuries consistent with physical abuse. Bruises, a sprained wrist, what she's calling failure to thrive, based on Emma's weight percentiles. The room spun around me. Those are lies. Emma broke her wrist falling off her bike in March. Dr. Stevens has the x-rays. And she's been to the doctor for normal checkups and 2 ear infections, not injuries. I know that. You know that. But Rachel submitted what appear to be altered medical summaries that make routine visits look suspicious. Jennifer's voice carried a grim edge. She's also got affidavits from 3 people claiming to have witnessed concerning interactions between you and Emma. 3 people. What 3 people? My voice pitched higher despite my efforts to stay calm. Your former babysitter, Jessica Mills. A teacher from Emma's school. And someone named Patricia Hoffman who claims to be a family friend. Jessica Mills. I hadn't used her services since December when she'd started showing up late and smelling like alcohol. The teacher reference made no sense. Emma's current teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, adored her and had never expressed any concerns. And Patricia Hoffman was Rachel's college roommate who'd met Emma exactly once, at Dad's funeral. Jennifer, these are all lies. Jessica was unreliable and I had to fire her. Patricia barely knows Emma. And no teacher has ever. Sarah, breathe. We expected Rachel to escalate, remember? The more desperate her tactics become, the more obvious her deception gets. Jennifer paused, papers rustling. Marcus has been busy too. He tracked down the woman who impersonated CPS at your house last night. Her name is Monica Chen, no relation, despite the surname. She's an actress Rachel hired through some freelance website. An actress? Gets better. Monica thought she was participating in some kind of custody dispute reenactment for a legal seminar. Rachel paid her $300 and gave her a script of questions to ask. Monica's willing to testify that Rachel coached her on what to say and when to take photographs. I closed my eyes, trying to process the systematic nature of Rachel's deception. She's been planning this for months, hasn't she? The fake medical records, the fraudulent witnesses, hiring someone to impersonate officials. At least 3 months, based on the paper trail Marcus is uncovering. Sarah, this goes way beyond sibling rivalry or inheritance disputes. Rachel's constructed an elaborate fraud designed to permanently separate you from Emma. That's criminal conspiracy, not just false reporting. Emma appeared in my doorway, already dressed for school in her favorite striped shirt and jeans. Her hair was neatly braided, she'd been getting better at doing it herself, and she carried her backpack with the kind of determined efficiency that made my heart ache. Mama, are we still going to see the people today about keeping our family together? I covered the phone's mouthpiece. Yes, sweetheart. But it's going to be okay. We have friends helping us prove that Aunt Rachel made mistakes. After Emma left for school with Frank, I wasn't taking any chances with normal routines. Jennifer delivered the final piece of devastating news. Rachel's requesting immediate temporary custody pending the investigation's outcome. She's claiming Emma's in imminent danger and that you've been coaching her to lie to authorities. Jennifer's voice carried steel now. But Sarah, she made one critical error in all this planning. What's that? She got greedy. Fabricating medical records is a felony. Conspiracy to file false reports is a felony. And impersonating government officials. That's federal. The custody evaluation was scheduled for 2 p.m., but our day in court was just beginning. At 11:47 a.m., 3 hours before the custody evaluation, my phone exploded with notifications that made my blood freeze. Text messages, voicemails, Facebook alerts, all from people I barely knew, all saying variations of the same horrifying thing. Asterisk Sarah, I saw the news article about you. I'm so sorry you're going through this, asterisk. Asterisk can't believe what they're saying about Emma. Thinking of you both, asterisk. Asterisk just read the Herald piece. This has to be some kind of mistake, right, asterisk. My hands shook as I googled my name. The headline hit like a freight train, local mother under investigation for child abuse, CPS sources confirm pattern of neglect. The article, published by the Riverside Herald at 9:23 a.m., contained details that made me physically nauseous. My full name, Emma's school, our address. Quotes from anonymous CPS sources describing escalating concerns about the welfare of an 8-year-old girl in what appears to be a volatile single-parent household. But the worst part was the photograph. Emma, tear-streaked and pressed against our living room window from last night, with a caption that read, "The child in question, photographed during a recent welfare check that revealed signs of emotional distress." Jennifer, I gasped into the phone, my voice barely functional. She leaked everything to the media. There's a news article with Emma's photo, our address, quotes about the investigation. I'm looking at it now. Jennifer's voice was deadly calm in a way that suggested someone was about to face serious legal consequences. Sarah, this just became a federal case. Leaking details from an active CPS investigation is a crime. Publishing a minor's information without consent is a crime. And I guarantee Rachel's behind this. I kept scrolling, each paragraph worse than the last. Details about Dad's inheritance, described as a substantial windfall that sources say may have contributed to the family's instability. References to concerning disciplinary practices reported by family members. A quote from someone identified as a former caregiver, claiming I had anger management issues and unrealistic expectations for an 8-year-old child. Jessica Mills. The babysitter I'd fired for showing up drunk was now Jessica Mills, former caregiver, painting me as an unfit monster for public consumption. My doorbell rang at 12:15 p.m., and I opened it to find Frank holding a folded newspaper with an expression that could have melted steel. Someone's been calling Emma's school, he said without preamble. Principal Martinez got 6 calls this morning from people who read that garbage, demanding to know if Emma's safe in class. The schools had to put her in the guidance counselor's office for her own protection. The room tilted. They're harassing Emma at school. Gets worse. Channel 7 news van just pulled up at the end of our street. Reporters asking neighbors for comments about the abuse investigation. Frank's jaw was clenched so tight I worried about his blood pressure. Adrian's already given them a piece of her mind, but Sarah, they know where you live. They know where Emma goes to school. I called the school immediately, my heart hammering as I waited for Principal Martinez to come to the phone. Miss Chen, I'm so glad you called. Emma's safe with Mrs. Webb, our counselor, but we've had to implement security protocols because of media attention. Her voice carried professional concern mixed with barely concealed outrage. I want you to know that in 3 years of knowing Emma, I've never seen a single indication of abuse or neglect. She's a happy, well-adjusted child with age-appropriate social skills. Can you put that in writing? For the custody evaluation. Already done. Mrs. Rodriguez drafted a letter this morning detailing Emma's academic performance, social interactions, and emotional development. We're also prepared to testify that whoever provided information to that newspaper reporter has never worked at this school or interacted with Emma in any official capacity. At 1:23 p.m., Jennifer called with news that shifted everything into a different stratosphere of legal warfare. Marcus traced the newspaper leak to someone using Rachel's IP address and email account. She sent the reporter photos, documents, and what she claimed were insider CPS sources, except she forgot to scrub the metadata from the files she forwarded. Jennifer's voice carried grim satisfaction. Sarah, your sister just committed witness tampering, obstruction of justice, and violation of a minor's privacy rights. All felonies. But the custody evaluation is about to become a formality. Judge Harrison's been briefed on the criminal charges we're filing against Rachel. When someone's actively committing crimes to influence a child welfare case, it tends to undermine their credibility as a concerned family member. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma's school, *Ms. Chen. Emma asked Mrs. Webb to write down something she wants to tell the judge. She said, my mama never hurt me and anyone who says she did is lying. I want to stay with my mama forever. Thought you should know. Principal Martinez *. At 1:45 p.m., 15 minutes before we were supposed to leave for the evaluation, Rachel called one final time. Her voice was different now, shaky, desperate, nothing like the cold calculation from our park meeting. Sarah, we need to talk. I think I made some mistakes. Maybe we can work something out before this goes any further. Too little, too late. I looked at the news van still parked on my street, at Frank standing guard on his porch, at the stack of character reference letters from Emma's teachers, pediatrician, and neighbors. The only mistake you made, Rachel, was underestimating how far a mother will go to protect her child. See you in court. The courtroom at 2:47 p.m. felt like the center of the universe. Judge Harrison sat behind his massive oak desk, flanked by stacks of evidence that represented 3 months of Rachel's systematic lies and our desperate fight for truth. Emma sat beside me in the gallery, her small hand clasped firmly in mine, wearing her lucky purple dress and a kind of serious expression that made her look far older than 8. Rachel entered with her attorney at 2:52 p.m., and I barely recognized my sister. The composed, calculating woman from Riverside Park had been replaced by someone hollow-eyed and shaking. Her lawyer, a thin man named Davidson, kept glancing nervously at the mountain of evidence Jennifer had assembled on our table. Your Honor, Jennifer began, standing with the kind of confidence that comes from holding all the winning cards. What we have here isn't a child welfare case, it's a criminal conspiracy designed to weaponize the family court system for personal revenge. Judge Harrison adjusted his glasses, studying the file before him. Ms. Mitchell, that's a serious allegation. I hope you can substantiate it. We can, Your Honor. Beginning with Exhibit A, video evidence of Ms. Rachel Chin admitting to fabricating sexual abuse allegations against her sister. The courtroom's large screen flickered to life, showing Rachel's face in high definition as Marcus's hidden camera captured her confession. I told her I was deeply concerned because Emma had started showing sexualized behavior during my visits. Inappropriate touching, asking strange questions about adult relationships. My sister's face went white as her own voice filled the room, cold and calculated as she described lying to destroy an innocent child's life. Exhibit B, Jennifer continued, documents proving Ms. Rachel Chin hired actress Monica Chin to impersonate a CPS worker and photograph the minor child in deliberate emotional distress. Monica's testimony played next, her confused voice explaining how she thought she was participating in a legal training exercise, not psychological warfare against an 8-year-old girl. Your Honor, Rachel's attorney interrupted weakly, my client was acting out of genuine concern for her niece's welfare. Exhibit C, Jennifer's voice cut through the objection like a blade, medical records proving Ms. Rachel Chin falsified documentation to support her abuse allegations. Dr. Stevens, Emma's pediatrician, will testify that Emma Chen has never presented with injuries consistent with physical abuse. Judge Harrison's expression grew darker as each piece of evidence mounted. The falsified CPS reports. The leaked news story traced directly to Rachel's computer. The systematic harassment spanning 3 months. The coached witness statements from people who barely knew Emma. At 3:23 p.m., Judge Harrison called Rachel to the witness stand. My sister moved like someone walking to her own execution, her hands visibly trembling as she was sworn in. Ms. Chen, the judge's voice carried the weight of absolute authority, you stand accused of filing false reports with Child Protective Services, conspiracy to commit fraud, witness tampering, and child endangerment. How do you plead? Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. Your Honor, I was trying to protect Emma from what I believed was. Ms. Chen. Judge Harrison's interruption was sharp. I've reviewed video evidence of you admitting to fabricating sexual abuse allegations for revenge. I've seen documentation of you hiring someone to impersonate government officials. You've leaked confidential information about a minor to news media. He leaned forward, his gaze steel. This court finds your actions constitute a pattern of malicious harassment designed to separate a child from her fit and loving parent. The gavel came down at 3:41 p.m. with finality that echoed through the courtroom. All charges against Sarah Chen are dismissed with prejudice. Ms. Rachel Chen, you are hereby ordered to have no contact with Sarah Chen or her minor child. Criminal charges for filing false reports and conspiracy will be forwarded to the district attorney's office. Emma squeezed my hand as Rachel was led away by courthouse security, her face streaked with tears and a weight of consequences she'd never anticipated. Mama, Emma whispered as we walked out into the afternoon sunlight, are we safe now? We're safe now, baby. We're going home.